bought 10 copies of this print when we started it out. And we ran out this year, so we had to decide whether we would buy more. We bought 20. Now, to give you the background of this, I knew Bob Calder, Dr. Bob Calder, Governor General's Medal winner from the, and I knew him, and I came to know through him Dr. Jerry Hay, who was seated here as a guest. And we met several times about 11 years ago about the sad lack of recognition that Saskatchewan writers had within the population. So my wife and I decided we had the inclination to support it. We had, frankly, if there isn't being taken on the cash to do it. We wouldn't be writing ourselves or any children for that matter, not being any, putting some money up for this award. And we were delighted at the response that it received and has received. So every year, and then to make it work better, I'm so bold as to call Dorothy and her late husband, Bill Parahudoff, friends of ours. I went to Dorothy and said, Dorothy, can you let us have a painting to honor the winner of this award? And Dorothy took very, very little time to make up her mind that this was worthy. And from knowing Bill and Dorothy over the years, they were very pleased, she was very pleased, and he was very pleased, I think, about this idea and this gift. And we've been very grateful to Dorothy, and she recognized, as I think I do, the connection between the arts and literature. And that's why we're here today with this to be seen by you. You've been here in the past and seen it before, no surprise. Now, that's the history of the award. Bob Calder, Jerry Hay, Cheryl and I came up with the idea of recognizing a Saskatchewan artist, and there was no other form of recognition available. And now there's a bit of politics involved. Guess what? We never get invited to any of the Regina events because we insist on having this here. We insist on having this event here. And the Writers Guild has been prepared to collude, to quote Donald Trump. And by the way, those of you who know me as a storyteller, I think, and I told the Lieutenant Governor.
This is not why we're here.
And I told the Lieutenant Governor that a guy you all know or know about, Bill Clinton, had been a classmate of mine at Oxford. I think he was surprised, given how unsubtle I am. Now, since this is a tag team event,
Henry's done a good job of background, but I would like to give special thanks to the Writers Guild who have picked up the administrative ends of this award. They handle the jury process and the solicitation of nominations and have done a wonderful job, and we're very grateful to them for doing that. This is the 10th award that we are here today to give, and at the risk of boring you, but I think it's important, I will read the names of the former recipients, starting out in 2010 with Guy Vanderheg, then Lorna Crozier, Sharon Butala, Diane Warren, Sandra Birdsell, David Carpenter, Jan Martel, and both David and Jan are here this afternoon, which we're very grateful for, Turner Harriet, and Sylvia Legree. So, up until today, oh, thank you, sorry, Sylvia, thank you. So we have up until now had 5 female recipients and 4 male recipients. So we've done a pretty good job of gender balance here, not that I'm trying to toot that horn, but I found it interesting as I was looking through this last night that in fact is where we're at. So in keeping with the gender balance, I am pleased to announce that the recipient of the 2019 Cheryl and Henry Kloppenburg Award for Literary Excellence is Arthur Slade, whom we'll hear from in just a moment. Arthur Slade has to be the greatest young person's writer in Saskatchewan, and his recognitions and awards have certainly substantiated that. So we're very pleased to have been able to give you this award. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you. I brought notes too, because I am afraid of all these literary geniuses. And they're making me tremble, although I don't have a couple things on these notes. I do want to start out by just saying this is an incredible honor, and I really appreciate it. When you were reading the list of previous nominees, I was thinking, when I was growing up as a writer, I wanted to be Guy Vanderhaeghe. I thought, oh wow, he came from a small town, he became a writer. David Carpenter was so. I remember the first time seeing him at university, I was like, oh, that's a writer, and he's walking around. And Sharon Butella only lived 40 minutes from our ranch. So all these people inspired me. So to be on the same list as those people is just incredibly honorable. So I'd say a great honor. So I'm really, really pleased. I'm not going to cry, I promise. I was told I only have 2 minutes to give thank yous. And so I won't be thanking my ukulele coach from grade 4. So I'm going to cut like kind of straight ahead. And I'm going to, of course, start with Henry and Cheryl Kloppenburg. Thank you so much for this, and thank you so much for being such a consistent supporter of the arts. Often, as artists, we tend to like to talk about our art. We don't talk about money as much. Well, I do, but and I think one of the great things about this award is that what the money says to people outside is that this is important. What people are creating in Saskatchewan is important. It's as important as what's happening in Toronto. It's as important as what's happening in New York. And the fact that you're consistently telling people that is getting that message across. So I really, really appreciate that. I want to thank Dorothy Knowles for this love. This is going to be on our wall. And I can't wait to get it home. Every day I'll get to see it, I'll have my little tea, and I'll look at it, and I'll be reminded of this day. And so this is an incredible gift for me and my wife too. And I also want to thank Yolanda Hansen, everybody from the Writers Guild, because I know that I've been a member of the Writers Guild since I was 15, and so I'm 52 now. You can do the math, and I don't do numbers. But the Writers Guild has been such a great support to the arts, and often I get asked, people when I go to other provinces, they go, how come there's so many writers who come from Saskatchewan? What is it about that province? And there's many things I list off, but one of the first things I list is the Saskatchewan Writers Guild. It has been such a great support, and the people there are working every day. They don't get to have great dinners like this every day, but every day they're working hard to let people know about Saskatchewan writers, and I truly appreciate that. I was told by a good friend that I should be sure to thank my wife. And even though you're number 4 on the list, you're number 1 in my heart. My wife, Brenda Baker, has put up with this career that I've chosen. Has been kind enough to even edit some of my books, and so she has been a great support. I do want to thank also my daughter, Tanea, who has been in her life for the last 10 years, and she has put up with this career. She sometimes will come up to me while I'm writing and go, "Can we go to this?" And I go, "Just as soon as I'm done writing about this dragon attacking a castle." I go, "Oh, okay, Dad." So she's been incredibly supportive too. And finally, I want to thank my mom and dad who are sitting right here. They come all the way from the Cypress Hills, from the ranch in the Cypress Hills, to come and support me in this. And that's one of the great things. I wish every artist could have parents like this, because from the moment I said I wanted to be a writer, they said, "Okay, you go do that, and we'll help you however we can." They help me financially, but more importantly, they help me spiritually and emotionally to keep on doing this job. So I really, really appreciate that. So, in some ways, in keeping with that, I'm going to read a section from a novel of mine called Megiddo's Shadow. And that novel was actually inspired by my grandfather, who was my father's father. And my grandfather, his name was Arthur Hercules Slade, which makes it sound like he's got a real destiny. and he did have a destiny. He when World War I broke out, he signed up with the British military. He was given a horse, he was given a rifle, he was given a cutlass, and he was given a lance. And they trained him, and then they put him on a boat, and they sent him to Egypt. And he fought for the British Empire against the Turkish Empire, even though he probably never met anybody from Turkey before. And he fought all through the Sinai, all through what was then called Palestine. And if you've ever seen Lawrence of Arabia, that would give you some of the idea of what happened to him. And my grandfather would never speak about what happened. At least he would only tell it to his brothers who were in the military. Anybody who was a civilian didn't get to know what it was like. Except he had one answer once, actually my mother asked him, what was it like to be in the war? And my grandfather's answer was, I was everywhere that Jesus was, but I couldn't find him anywhere. And to me, I wanted to tell that story. I wanted to tell a story about what happens when you are someone who believes in God and in country, and you get sent to the Holy Land, and you have to fight. And so the chapter I'm going to read, which is late in the book, but I don't have to explain anything because it's kind of self-contained. My character, who is not my grandfather, but he's in the same regiment, ends up in the Jordan Valley. A month later, in July, I was sent to hell. Somewhere high above us, General Allenby had uttered a command, and next thing we knew, we were riding through the Judean hills toward the Jordan Valley. I hear no white man has ever made it through a summer there, said Pitts, giving Brushmead, his horse, a kick. The horse was already wasted in the sun. We passed a Roman aqueduct that hadn't seen water in centuries. The sun blazed closer, brighter, and hotter. Heavy air hung over us like a shroud, forcing the sweat from our backs. Chaplain Holmes pointed towards Jericho, excited to see the city, but all I saw were waves of heat. As the sun set, we trotted down a long ravine that led to the bottom of the valley. The air became chokingly hot. My uniform was a sweat rag. The trail was now so narrow that we moved off the road, waiting by the ruins of a solitary stone house for the regiment we were replacing to pass. There was no sign of them in the darkness. I sat on a stone holding Bute's reins. A mosquito landed on my arm and I watched it suck my blood. I was too tired to give it a swat. Blackburn waved his hand at the swarm. Our little winged pests will dictate our battle tactics. Cheevers nudged me. Ears up, Dave. Blackburn has given us another lecture. Don't get smart. I'm just saying it takes 10 days or so for a trooper to succumb to malaria. Once we cross into the Turk trenches, hordes of mosquitoes will be waiting for us with new strains of malaria. Mosquitoes? Cheevers gave me another nudge. Oh no! Allenby is thinking about them. He's probably calculated he'll only have 10 days or so to bust up the Turk lines, because by that time, half his force will have malaria. Watching several mosquitoes suck at my hand, I said, unless we all get it before the big push starts. He spoke. Cheapers gave me another nudge, and I nearly smacked him. Did you hear that, Blackburn? Bathe actually squeaked. He's been silent as a worm for weeks. Before I could say anything, the clopping of hundreds of hooves echoed from the trail. Riders in slouch hats appeared, Aussie light horsemen. What news from the Valley of Death? Cheapers called out as they passed. The Aussies stared ahead as though they might teeter off their horses if they took their eyes from the path. Their whalers, which looked taller than our mounts, were thin, the men even thinner. I'd never seen so many Aussies in such a dour mood. What outfit are you? Another trooper shouted. Again, no reply. At the tail end of the column was a line of 12 ambulance wagons with 3 men per wagon laying squashed together, eyes closed. I couldn't tell if they were sick or dead. Finally, from the back of the last wagon, one lone voice could be heard, singing so terribly out of tune, I nearly covered my ears. The bells of hell go ting-a-ling-a-ling, for you, but not for me. And the little devils, how they sing-a-ling-a-ling, for you, but not for me. Oh, death, where is thy sing-a-ling-a-ling? Oh, grave, thy victory. The bells of hell go ting-a-ling-a-ling, for you, but not for me. As we lost sight of the men, the squeaking wheels and tuneless voice slowly faded away. One last straggling Aussie on a pack mule plopped past us. It's all yours, Tommies, he said hoarsely. The land that God forgot. With his words echoing in our ears, we mounted and followed the path into the valley. On the other side of the ruins, Dr. Purves and 2 orderlies tried to wake up a trooper who appeared to have fainted. It was a long ride before the Jordan Valley opened up around us, distant shadowy hills lit by moonlight. It was well past midnight, but it still grew hotter. I had to work to suck in the heavy air. Can't wait for daylight, Cheaper said. I'm sure that'll bring a break from this heat. We fed and watered our horses, working through the night because the day would be too hot for us to lift a finger. As the sun rose, it revealed a desolation only the devil could have dreamed up. A low, flat valley of white marl and salt, spotted with swamp, stony plain, patches of dense scrub, and a thin layer of dry grass. The land had never known rain. Lumps of dried flesh, dead camels, lay here and there as though dropped from the sky, a sky that had never seen a cloud. A hot breath of wind drove the salty dust into my eyes. Occasionally, a 13-pounder gun would roar just to let the Turks know that His Majesty's troops were still here. When we returned to our tents, we learned that the man who had passed out on the path had died. Just gave up the ghost, it said. Bembridge from B Squadron. His constitution couldn't take it. They'll bury him at Jericho. We were too sluggish to do much more than nod, sadly. Had I known him? Trooper Bembridge. Poor sod. It became so hot that we were ordered to rest in our tents. I stripped naked, but that only gave the sandflies more flesh to feast on. I tried to imagine playing hockey or making angels in the snow to little effect. Even Cheevers couldn't get a wink in. Reveille sounded in the late afternoon, and I stumbled out into the oven, blinking away sweat. I passed a thermometer on a post. At the 115-degree mark, someone had drawn an arrow and written, "This is where brains boil." The thermometer read 132. We layered 3 blankets on our horses' backs to prevent heat stroke. Bute's dark collar sucked up every ounce of swelling hotness, and he looked as though he'd been galloping for hours. At lunch, we had tea, which somehow seemed to cool my insides. When I opened my tin of bully beef, I discovered that the meat had melted into a dripping, soggy blob of fat. A mass of buzzing, fighting vermin attacked it, and I shook them off the tin, quickly forking in 2 bites. The flies beat about inside my mouth, forcing me to spit it out. Don't waste food, Bathe. Hargreaves was standing over me, holding 2 halters. You and Cheevers, come along. We have to get the lieutenant's horses. I left my empty tin to the flies, and we trudged up a hill peppered with lava rock. Below us, troopers on horseback and lines of wagons prodded through the valley, raising a column of dust. That's a ruse to make the Turks think we're a battalion, Hargreaves explained. Don't get on my bad side or you'll be eating dust with them. He laughed. It seemed as if 10 years had passed since he'd killed that Turk in cold blood. We walked by 1,000 or so horses made of reeds, complete with fake saddles and feed bags. It looked as though they were grazing on the hillside. The few Hun planes that spied us would surely be fooled. Hargreaves kicked one of the horses over. If the Turks have fallen for it, we'll be outnumbered 3 or 4 to 1. But don't let that bother you. Bother me, Cheever said. I'd welcome a tea party with Johnny Turk. We could stick bayonets in their bellies and use them as parasols. Hargreaves clapped him on the back and handed across the halters. We need more ugly buggers like you. Go get the horses. Cheevers charged up the hill, and Hargreaves squinted toward the Turkish side of the valley. Won't be long before we give them all a good pounding, babe. Then we can get out of this hell hole they call the Holy Land. I wasn't sure if he was trying to begin a conversation or not, so I kept quiet. Are you getting on well these days? Yes, Sergeant. Good. I want my men to be fighting fit and ready to spit fire. If you have any complaints, come to me. Do you understand? He put a hand on my shoulder, and I cringed a little. I do, Sergeant. Thank you. He tightened his grip, making me wince. I know you whined to the lieutenant about that Turk. A chill, impossible with the heat, crawled over my skin. How long had he known? You're soft, babe, in the head, the heart, and the gut. Soft men die out here, or their softness leads to good men getting it. You have no place in this war. I belong. You don't have permission to speak. He smacked me in the stomach, shoved me onto the rocks, and put his boot on my chest. If you go belly aching behind my back again, I'll wring your neck. Just shut your gob and follow my orders, and you might survive. The rocks poked into my spine, but I didn't move. He waved his boot up near my nose, then lowered his foot to the ground. Get up, babe. I set my hand on the ground and felt a sharp pain in my wrist. Ah! I screamed, good God! A scorpion skittered away, tail raised. A pinprick on my hand bled freely, and my fingers went numb. I got stung. Lordy me, Hargreaves said with a laugh. For the life of me, I can't remember what to do for scorpion stings. I yanked my knife from my belt and sliced a line across the sting, watching my blood flow out of the wound. I sucked and spat out blood and venom. What happened? Cheevers yelled from above us. He was leading the horses down the path. Clumsy babe fell and was stung by a scorpion. You help him to the dock and I'll take the horses to Rance. Hargreaves grabbed the halters and left with the horses. Squeeze it out, Cheevers said. I pinched droplets of blood onto the salty earth until my hand was stained red. Harder, chum, you don't want to get poisoned, harder. He helped me stand up and steered me onto the path. I'll take you to Dr. Perb's. How did you fall? I tripped. I felt woozy and began seeing double as we stumbled slowly down the hill. An angry line from a trooper's song stuck in my head. Send him, oh send our old sergeant to hell. I began to laugh, somewhat crazily. And Cheevers asked, what's so funny? Don't you get it? I said. Don't you get it? This is just our first day in the valley.